some super exciting news. I'm moving to Portland. We finally found a house. It's amazing. And I am so excited to experience a new city and check out what the historical costuming scene is like in Portland. So if you're a historical costumer in like the Portland area, you should hit me up so that we can be friends. However, if I'm gonna be moving to Portland, then obviously I'm gonna need to blend in. I think most people already know this, but Portland has a really strong cycling culture. Like a lot of people tend to ride their bikes to work and stuff like that. So I think that what I really need is another cycling costume. After all, what will help me blend into a new city better than wearing 1890s cycling clothes around? It's the perfect plan. And also, my husband sent me this skit called The Dream of the 1890s is Alive in Portland, and it's just... So before I actually get started making my cycling ensemble, let's talk about why cycling attire was so popular in the 1890s to begin with. So up until the late 1880s, people rode what we would probably call a penny farthing. At the time, it was literally just called a bicycle because there wasn't anything to compare it to. Unfortunately, the penny farthing is super dangerous, and I'm sure you can imagine why. It wasn't until the invention of the bicycle chain that women were really able to take part in cycling as an activity. The bicycle chain actually did two super important things. First of all, it made the bicycle much safer, and therefore it was more socially acceptable for women to take part in cycling. And also, it's pretty much impossible to ride a bicycle wearing big heavy skirts with a lot of petticoats. So this is more or less where cycling ensembles come from. They're just outfits that are appropriate to be worn with a bicycle. It can take a few different forms. Probably the most common, or what you might be picturing, is the kind of like bloomer outfit where it's got the big voluminous trousers. But also simply wearing a shortened version of a skirt was also acceptable. I've looked at inspiration from quite a few different places, but this window pane check outfit really caught my eye. So I think I'm going to make this ensemble, but I'm just gonna do the skirt a little bit shorter so that it's a cycling length. So I was able to find window pane check, but unfortunately it really wasn't coming in any of the color palettes that I was hoping for. So I bought a 100% linen window pane check that came in black and white. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try and dye it. I've had pretty mixed results with dye in the past, so here's hoping it works out. And I think I'm probably just gonna go with like a nice, rich, cozy, warm brown color. That way it can be worn both in summer, and because of the color palette, it can also kind of carry over into fall. The patterns I chose for this project are also pretty straightforward, and they don't require too much alteration. I think for the body of the jacket, I'm gonna use the truly Victorian Eton jacket. I'm gonna swap it for the sleeve from their 1894 shirtwaist, however, to get that really nice, big, giant, puffy sleeve. And then for the skirt, I'm gonna use the 1890s ripple skirt, which is also from Truly Victorian, and then I'm just gonna shorten the hem a couple of inches so that it's the right length. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the skirt first. I kind of have mixed feelings about this pattern because the final skirt is really pretty, but one of the pattern pieces is so enormous that it doesn't fit on my cutting table, and I have to use the patented Rachel Maxey floor troll technique to cut it out. Cute this is. My teacup matches my outfit. Now that I finished cutting out all the pieces, I'm going to pin them to my dress form and let them hang. The reason for that is that one of the pieces is essentially a quarter of a circle skirt. So when you cut something like that and it's on the bias, it's gonna end up stretching, and the hem will end up being longer in some places than it was when you cut it out. So you have to like let it settle and let gravity kind of like do its job before you finish the skirt itself. So I'm gonna let this do its thing for a little while, and I'm gonna switch over to working on the jacket. Super gigantic leg of mutton sleeves are actually put together in a pretty cool way. So you'll see that this edge and this edge are not going to match up when you try and sew them together. What you need to do is actually run some gathering stitches right here, which is indicated in the pattern. And then once you gather this up, you'll be able to match the two edges, and it helps keep the sleeve like nice and fluffy. The other thing that's gonna make a huge difference in keeping your sleeves like nice and fluffy is putting a ruffle inside the sleeve cap. On this one, you can see that I have put the ruffle in on the left-hand side, but not on the right-hand side. I use cotton organdy, which is a really nice stiff cotton, but honestly, anything is better than nothing. And this is what the ruffle on the inside looks like. It's nothing special, it's literally just like a 3-inch strip of fabric that has been pinned to the inside. Good morning, and actually just kidding. I have had a chance to think it over, and I've decided that actually I don't like this sleeve on this particular jacket. I think that the linen is just like too drapey, It's just like doing a thing. Even with an arm in there, it's too drapey and I don't like it. Let's do something else. Okay, so this is basically the style of sleeve that I want to do on the jacket, except I do think I'm going to make it full length. But when I made this jacket, I started having an issue where the sleeve would constantly like droop down, and like that doesn't look cute. It's not supposed to look like this. So I think that the best way to solve this problem is going to be by doing a complete undersleeve with the puff kind of like mounted on top of the undersleeve to keep it in place. Okay, so now we have an inner sleeve lining and then the outer puffy part of the sleeve. All right, it looks kind of weird right now, but I have found that this is the best way to finish the bottom edge on the outer sleeve. So you pretty much put them one inside the other with the bottom hem kind of like facing on the inside. And then when you like flip it over, it looks like this. Ta-da! I am probably going to go back and layer the original ruffle that I made for the other sleeve on the inside. It looks pretty fluffy on its own, even without the like ruffle to help it on its way. So let's see how it goes. How do I feel about this blouse? I kind of think it makes me look like a burglar or like a prison escapee or something. I'm like, I don't know. I am really happy with how this dress came out. I am really struggling with my original plan to dye it because it looks so good the way that it is now. Like, kind of looks like 50s does 1890s. It's like super wearable in its current incarnation. I am scared to accidentally ruin it with the dye. I'm worried that I'll not like it as much. I think even as pretty as this is, I probably won't end up wearing it that much unless it's something that fits in with my general aesthetic. The other thing that I want to talk about while I'm sitting here anyway and I don't have the full outfit on is proportions. I was reviewing footage of the whole outfit and I look very triangular, and that's just because I don't have my hat or my hair done up or anything like that, which like adds volume to the top half. And so it looks very like, which is just a good reminder that it really is super important for certain styles to do like the full ensemble, otherwise it's just like not gonna look right. I think just based on the volume of the outfit that I'm probably gonna have to dye it a couple of times. I'm gonna have to run it through the dye bath more than once, which is fine. I bought a ton of dye, so I'm very prepared for that possibility. So I'm outside because I don't want to like accidentally get this like damp bundle of clothes like on my nice sofa and accidentally get dye all over it. What have I done? Okay, it's very yellow. Like, I was expecting it to be a little bit yellow because the dye recipe I used is called buttered rum and it looks like this, but it's like yellow. I knew that I was gonna have to dye this more than once because it's a ton of fabric. So I'm gonna dye it again. This time I'm gonna double the amount of brown in the recipe and hope that that helps. So I'm gonna run this through probably at least one more time, maybe two, and hope that that fixes what I've done to this. Things are definitely improving pretty dramatically. At least it's more brown this time. I do still think that I want it a little bit darker than this, so I think I'm gonna do it one more time. So on the bright side, the shade of brown is pretty much perfect, although it is still a tiny bit blotchy and I'll probably have to run it through the dye bath one more time. On the other hand, it turns out that this fabric is so loosely woven that most of the seams split after being washed in the dye bath a couple of times. Most of the skirt seams survived because they were finished both with a serger and a lining, but the jacket was just lined and not serged, and apparently that wasn't enough to keep it in one piece. I cannot believe that that happened. I have worked with linen a bunch of times in the past and it has always been fine. A lining should have been more than enough to keep the linen from falling apart. Even if I hadn't lined it, you do expect fraying, but it shouldn't fray to the extent where the entire seam allowance falls apart. I'm so unhappy. I don't think that I can just literally straight up remake the jacket because it's gonna be hard to achieve the same color that I already have on the skirt. So I think what I'm gonna do is take it apart, cut the seam allowance off of the jacket, and then flatline it and use the serger on it to try and keep it all in one piece. Obviously, this is gonna cause a problem where the jacket is going to turn out smaller than I had originally intended. I'm hoping that I can get away with it because the jacket doesn't actually close at the center front, it just hangs open. But I don't know what else I can do, so I guess I'm gonna like sit down and completely remake this jacket. I am so upset. Okay, maybe that was a little on the dramatic side, but that is legitimately how I was feeling. I don't think that I have ever completed a sewing project more resentfully in my life. I enjoyed none of that. It was a very painful process. I hated every second of it. If I weren't making a video, I probably would have thrown the whole project in the trash. But it's done. So let's try this on and see how it looks together. I am hoping that the mishap with the linen falling apart does not completely poison my love for the finished garment. So hopefully I can get over the pain and suffering that that fabric has put me through and that I'll actually enjoy wearing this. They were not wrong. This dinosaur was an appropriate reaction to the small sequel. It's a good dinosaur. I don't know what you want from me. Look, it's a good dinosaur. Okay, time for a little bit of wrap up. Overall, this project really felt like a huge roller coaster. I don't know if it was just that specific fabric or what happened, but having to completely remake the jacket was kind of devastating. The sleeves are definitely too short now because I had to take so much out of the shoulder seam. I was super worried about dyeing it because I was terrified that I was accidentally going to ruin it, but I am so glad that I dyed it because I think it looks so much better in the brown. It looks more historical to me, and it definitely fits in with my wardrobe a lot better than the black and white would have. So super happy with the dye job. After the jacket mishap, I stopped trying very hard, and I think that this is not a very well-made ensemble at all. It's fine. All the seams are finished. It's definitely wearable, but the hem is super wonky. The waistband, the gathers aren't distributed quite exactly how they should be. Overall, just not my finest work, and I think that my relationship with the process of putting together a project makes a huge difference in how hard I try. If I'm not excited about a project, I'm much more likely to do a terrible job on it. Overall, I'm gonna give this one like a C-. The end result looks pretty good. Every time I look at this ensemble, I just get angry. I 100% forgot to film a sign off as usual, so thank you so much for watching. I think that's it for me, and I will see you next time.